Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite book cover artists and some of my favorite cover arts by those cover artists. I'm going to be showing you a lot of the ones that I have copies of. So I think some of them I don't actually have the copy of, so I'll just put that on that picture on the screen when I get to those. But for most of these, I think almost all of them, I have the actual book in hand, and so I can show you the cover art from that. And I'm going to talk about my top 5 in depth, and then I have 3 honorable mentions that were they were just outside the top 5, and so I'm going to talk about all of them, and I've made videos in the past talking about cover art and the style I like, and that was like 2 years ago, and I figured, or actually it was sometimes 3 years ago almost, and I figured why not make a new video talking about it, kind of updating it, and also I wanted to add a little caveat at the beginning of the video that a lot of book reviewers and book readers bemoan the state of publishing and bemoan the fact that there are a lot of books coming out with bad cover art, where basically instead of having a painter paint a beautiful painting, we just get words on a page. Maybe you see some kind of style in the background, maybe an image of like an apple or an image of a single object, but like nothing that screams that is a painting. It's just bland. It just looks like someone did it all on their computer. And I understand that complaint, and I think it is true generally of the publishing sphere. However, there are a lot of exceptions. One huge exception is Baen Books. Baen Books has a full-on painting for just about every single book that they publish every year. They have a full-on painting on the book, and most of them are gorgeous paintings. So I'm not going to talk about all of the Baen books, although I could, because so many of them are great. Also, I want to point out that of recently, there's been some nice cover art, a few nice cover arts that were full-on paintings from Tor Books and from Orbit and from Ace and from a few of the other major publishers. So I want to give them credit. When they do full-on paintings for their cover arts, it looks really good. So it's not impossible to find those books, and they are happening. We just need to draw attention when that happens. And of course, I actually have some of them, like for instance, The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan. I just purchased that book based off the cover art and because of people talking about it, and I think it has gorgeous cover art. So, that being said, let's go into my honorable mentions first. And so my first honorable mention I'm going to talk about is The Brothers Hildebrandt. Now, I only have really one-ish books that by them. It's two brothers who were painters, and I think one of them has died, but the other one's still alive. And they are known for doing like the big Star Wars poster and a few other things. But they did the original Sword of Shannara cover artwork, which is super cheesy. And I know it's super cheesy, but this cover art, I think, it resonates with me. It gets the feeling of Sword of Shannara to me. And they also did the interior artwork, which I think their interior artwork, the pictures in here are better than the actual main cover, which I still think is good. Case in point, they did a 35th anniversary, which why 35th specifically? But they did a 35th anniversary of it. It had the annotated Sword of Shannara, and they had Stephen Yule do this sword with fire, which is bland, not inspiring. But inside the book, they have this gorgeous painting from the Brothers Hildebrandt, which shows the team, the fellowship, basically, from the book going on their journey, and you see Alanon, and you see Shay and Flick, and you see a lot of the other characters, and that's gorgeous painting. First of all, that should have been the cover art. Woo-wee! Would have been beautiful. But they chose not to do that, and so I just want to point out that, hey, Del Rey, you could have chosen a better one. So that's what I mean. Like this is the thing that people complain about, and that other one that I showed you is the one that I think is much better. So that's the Brothers Hildebrandt. I only had one example from them to show. The next one, I have a few more examples, and that is the cover artist Royo. And Royo has done a lot of covers for Tor, a lot of fantasy book covers for Tor, especially in like the 90s. And I saw some science fiction Royal covers actually at the bookstore, and I didn't buy those books. And there's also some fantasy books at my local bookstore that the series only has like books 2 and 3, and they didn't have book 1, and it just didn't feel right to buy the books yet. But the books that I did purchase, and I do love these cover arts, is Elizabeth Haydon's Symphony of Ages series. So I'm going to set that down and pull out the first book. So Royo did the first cover, Rhapsody, which I love the book itself, but the cover I think is really, really nice. It really feels like that kind of Wheel of Time style. And then you have Prophecy, which is my least favorite in the series of the 6 that I have, but still really good. And then we have my favorite Royo cover art is Destiny. I mean, that, if I could have a full-on print painting of that, I love that. The way that the orange sky contrasts with the blue dress, and the way that you have him with the knight there, and it's a nice wraparound cover. And if I had the full painting that actually shows like the arena there, it's this painting is gorgeous. Why'd they have to ruin it by putting so much words on there? It's a gorgeous painting, and I love that. And then we also got the follow-up 3 books. We have Requiem for the Sun. That painting I love. We also got Elegy of a Lost Star, which I love that painting. I really like her holding the baby. That is a nice cover. And then you have The Assassin King, which I still have the sticker from the bookstore when I bought it. So those are the books by Royo that I love. He's one of my honorable mentions. And Royo just has this style that I really like. Very similar to Darrell K. Sweet, who I'll talk about later. Let me put these aside. Next, I'm going to talk, my last honorable mention is going to shock people that it's only in the honorable mentions. And that is going to be Michael Whelan. If you have heard of the major fantasy books and the major fantasy and science fiction authors, you probably know about Michael Whelan. He is a staple of the science fiction fantasy community. And I agree that he has earned that placement. A lot of people really respect his cover arts. And I like some of his cover arts. But when I've looked at all the cover art by Michael Whelan that I own, and that I've read of his books, I'm like, he's never been a favorite. That's the problem, is he's never been in my top 5. He's always one of those that just narrowly misses out, because his stuff's great, but it's not the style I want exactly. So talking about, but there are a few times that he has done the style that I really like. For the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, he did Oathbreaker, which I really like this cover, and I like the way it kind of shows the storm when you go to the back and when you see the full painting. And I really like that one. And then he also did Rhythm of War, which is my favorite of all of his covers. I love this painting. I think that this was actually back in 2020 when this was revealed. This was my phone background for about a year or so. I seriously love that cover of Shallan. That is gorgeous stuff. The way he did the colors there, I really like. Maybe it's because the orange and purple blue. That's interesting. Then he did A Memory of Light, which is the final Wheel of Time book. And he did this because the artist who had literally done books 1 through 13, Darrell K. Sweet, died right before they needed to work on this. And so Michael Whelan stepped in and pretty much matched Sweet's style, but with a little bit of his own in there. And I think this was the right direction to go. And so I really like that cover art as well. And so that is Michael Whelan. So now we're going to get into the cover artists that I like the most. And their artwork just matches what I like to see in science fiction and fantasy generally. And of course, if you have your favorites, let me know who your favorite artists are and what your favorite book covers are. Let me know all those thoughts in the comments down below. But I have a lot to get to, so let's get rolling. My number 5 is actually another brother pairing. I'm going to talk about them together because some of the work that they do is together. So I'm going to talk about Paul and Stephen Ewell. Paul and Stephen Ewell are probably some of the most famous cover artists because they do a ton of cover art. in science fiction and fantasy. And most of the science fiction books on my list of favorite cover arts come from them because their science fiction is great. And some of their fantasy is okay, but their science fiction is great. So first, I'm going to talk about they did the standalone. Which one did it? I think it was. Paul Ewell did the cover art for Angel Mass by Timothy Zahn. This is the first pure science fiction, like not Star Wars, not Star Trek, just science fiction book that I read, and I loved the book, but the cover art is actually what made me, besides Timothy Zahn being the author, which was like the impetus to, oh, I might be interested in this. Then I saw the cover art, and I was like, that's really cool. I want to know what's happening there. And so that cover art, just the way you have the greens and the oranges here, and the ship going through, that's such a cool cover art. We also have one that they did combined, which my cover's a little beat up, so I apologize for that. But On My Way to Paradise by Dave Wolverton. I actually haven't read the book yet, but I've been meaning to because Dave Wolverton, also known as David Farland, is one of my favorite authors. You'll see some of his books on here later. And this book cover, just with the guys in the suits, which almost look kind of alien-like, chasing down another craft, I thought that looked really cool. All right, this next series, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to swear a little bit on here. Sorry. This next series is called the Hellhole series by Kevin Anderson and Brian Herbert, and the cover art was done by Stephen Ewell. I think Stephen did the rest of these that I'm going to talk about for the brothers. You have the first book, which I just love, this painting of the guy at the lake, which kind of reflects off the ceiling. I think that's really, really cool artwork. We also have the second book in the series, Hellhole Awakening, with the kind of like the volcanic look to it. I think that looks really good. And then the third book in the series, Hellhole Inferno, that cover art with the kind of like the mantis like alien and the guy kneeling down. They had the same guy, or at least they had a man on each cover, and I liked that. So. That series I thought was well done, and then he's worked a lot with Kevin Anderson because Stephen Ewell also did Kevin Anderson's Saga of the Seven Sons. Now this looks cheesy, but it just oozes science fiction, and I love that it oozes the science fiction, and I love this style. I love this art style as well. This one's also really good. That one's really good. And then. So that's those books. And then I have the Dune House Atreides covers that Stephen did. Now, this is so frustrating. This grinds my gears when publishers cut off the painting and they basically minimize the painting to just being like a lower third instead of actually making it a full the full page like it should have been. Like this, it was like half of it, so that's a little bit more understanding. But like, look at the way some of these fantasy covers, the whole cover is the painting, and then the words are on top of the painting, but you can still see the full painting. Here, it's like they cover up the painting. It's like they ask for a full painting and then they just minimize and reduce it. And if this is the way, if he made it like this to be this size, well, then they should have repurposed it to make it full. And look at the back. The back has part of the painting and it looks pretty good without the words. So anyway, I'm very frustrated. But the painting itself is gorgeous. We also have Dune House Harkonnen, which also the painting itself with Giedi Prime, and that's a beautiful picture of Giedi Prime. And then we have House Carino, that picture also. This is very science fiction. The whole trilogy was. So those were all great. And then the last Stephen Ewell paintings I'm going to talk about for cover arts come from the George Martin Game of Thrones series. I only have the first 3 because they didn't do this cover art for books 4 and 5. But this one, I love this cover art. I love that cover art with Winterfell in the background. I think this is my favorite in the series. I would love to have a print of that. That is just gorgeous. Then we also have the Clash of Kings cover art, which I also really like, and the Storm of Swords cover art, which I also really like. So those are the I'm going to annoy some people with my stacking. So those are the Paul and Stephen Ewell cover arts. Mostly Stephen Ewell, but some Paul Ewell in both of them as well. So that's my number 5 cover artist. My number 4, I only have 2 books from, so don't worry, I'm not going to go too long on this one, is Alan Lee. Alan Lee is most known for his Middle Earth covers, his Middle Earth books that he does. And I am a big fan of his art style for Middle Earth. I think that he gets Middle Earth artwork. And so I have his book, Baron and Luthien, which also has interior artwork by Alan Lee, which I really like that. This painting, oh, that's just such. Now, this is more minimal than even I like the way he has like just basically the dark sky, and it is detail on the rocks and stuff, but it all seems a little bland. It doesn't have colors that pop. Like when you compare it to, say, A Storm of Swords, it's a different subgenre, but look, like the colors here pop, for at least. Here it's very muted. That's the word, muted. But still, I think it's still gorgeous cover art, and I love poring through these books and looking at these books. He also did for Middle Earth, and there's other Middle Earth books he did that I don't own yet. I will own them eventually. He did the Tales from the Perilous Realm painting, and that, again, minimalist, but the guy with the sword with the dragon, that's a pretty awesome cover. Next, why won't those stay up? Anyway, next I'm going to talk about my number 3 favorite cover artist, and that is Chris McGrath. Chris McGrath has, I'll call it an urban fantasy style to his artwork, and you'll very much understand when I'm going through. And his style is very distinct, to the point that some of these books did not list that they were Chris McGrath books, but as soon as I saw the cover, I said, that's Chris McGrath, because he has that kind of distinct style that I like. So he did the Mistborn covers, and I know some people who do not like these covers, and I think those people are crazy, because this is a gorgeous cover. I love that. The pink word lettering there, and the outline of the lettering here matches the cover, I think, very well. That's, of course, Vin on this cover. I think she looks excellent there. I also have Well of Ascension. He did that cover with Vin, and then Hero of Ages with Vin and Alan. Now mine is, this is kind of messed up because I was not the best the best steward of my books back in the day, but still great cover there. And then he also did some of the more recent ones for Mistborn. He did, I'll go quickly through these, Alloy of Law, which I love that yellow. Like, that one, Alloy of Law will never get lost in the sense that it has a very distinct yellow cover. And then you have Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning, which I love those covers as well. And then he also did the Dresden Files, some of the Dresden Files books, which just look amazing. I mean, this, if anything, gets the fact you're in an urban setting, but with kind of a wizard detective type guy. I mean, this really, and again, when I think of Dresden, I visually think of this because his style is so unique and so drawing to me. I have a bunch of other Dresden books. I'm not going to show them all. But anyway. Now we're getting to my number 2 favorite cover artist. My number 2 favorite book cover artist. And this is actually because of reasons. This is my favorite living book cover artist, because my number 1 sadly passed away. But my number 2 favorite cover artist is Dave Seeley. Dave Seeley has done a ton of science fiction fantasy books, mostly for Baen Books, but also he's done stuff for Tor and for Del Rey and others. I'll quickly point out some of my favorites of his. He did Rebel Dream and Rebel Stand. Those are both novels from Aaron Alston, and he did the paintings for them, which this is my favorite New Jedi Order book anyway, but I love the painting of the guy in the cockpit with the other ships in the background. I just think that's great. And then this is supposed to be Coruscant, but you get the feeling, because of the coloration, that something's wrong, that the coloring on Coruscant is incorrect. Coruscant's not supposed to look like that. He does a great job with that. Next, with him, he also he did the cover art for the Hanuvar, the Chronicles of Hanuvar. I have the first book here, Lord of a Shattered Land, which that cover draws in so many eyeballs anyway. This was also a great book, but this cover art is just great. And the second book is packed away because I'm going to a convention to get the book signed by the author, but he also did the cover art for the second book, which is The City of Marble and Blood, which I'll put on here on the screen. It's great. And he also did the third book, which is about to come out, which is The Mountain of Shadow or something like that. on a shadowy mountain, whatever that is. I'll put that on the screen as well. Those are gorgeous cover arts. And then he also did a series, and this is actually one that's I've had two extremes. I've had some people who love the cover art with this series, and they say, "Oh, this is amazing." And I know some people who say it's terrible, and they don't want to buy the books because it has that cover art, which I think is really funny. And that is Timothy Zahn's Icarus Saga. He did the first book in the Bane books. Stephen Ewell did the old the Icarus Hunt, the original, but. Dave Seeley did the Icarus Plot, which nice group photo type painting, and then he did the Icarus Twin, which is a different style but same brushstroke type. This is hard to describe. That, by the way, I always say this. This looks like BB-8, but like dead BB-8. Anyway. And then he did the cover art for the Icarus Job, which I actually really like this one. Really like this one. The main character of Gregory looks really chiseled and awesome in this cover. So that is my second favorite cover artist, Dave Seeley. Now we're getting to my favorite cover artist, which I've talked about so much on the channel. I've talked about in other videos. I've done entire videos talking about I Own the Portfolio book that goes through this cover artwork up through like 2000. I missed my favorite stuff in there. And then I also have videos talking about my favorite cover arts ever, and most of this author's cover art gets on there. But my favorite cover artist is Darrell K. Sweet. I think it's going to be impossible for anyone ever to unseat him as my favorite cover artist. His cover art is exactly what I want. If I could get, I know it's kind of selfish of me because some people don't like it, but if I could get every single book ever to have a Darrell K. Sweet cover art, I would do it. I'm almost at the point where I would be willing to buy a new book, just because it has Darrell K. Like when I go to the bookstore and I see, my used bookstore, that is, because none of the new bookstore has his cover art anymore. But if I go to a used bookstore and I see Darrell K. Sweet's cover art there, unless it's ridiculously expensive, I try to get it because he's just so good. I love his stuff. His paintings are just speak to me. So, talking about some of his paintings that I really love, he did two of the Shannara books. I talked about the brothers Hildebrandt did the Sword of Shannara, but Darrell K. Sweet did Elfstones and Wish Song, and you can tell he tried to mesh the brothers Hildebrandt style with his own original style, and I think it looks really good, both of these. He also did the cover art for the Saga of Recluse. And this painting, for the Magic of Recluse, I love that painting. I love it so much. And in this, in the art book that I have by him, he goes through and shows what it looked like as an outline sketch, what it looked like as a detailed sketch, what it looked like when it had the initial painting, and then when he had to redo it because he had the guy on the wrong side of the wagon and stuff. It's a gorgeous painting. And then he also did the Towers of Sunset, which has, it has the snow and the horses and the people and the kind of castle in the background and the blue sky and this one has kind of a light blue and orange theme, and this one has like a dark blue and yellow theme, and I love that. And then it's a wraparound, which I love his wraparound covers. And you see more guys and you see the forest. That's the stuff right there. I love that. He also did, and this series has different cover. I own four of the books in this series. It's A Wizard in series by Christopher Statchef, I think is how you say it. Anyway, he did A Wizard in Mind, one of the books, and that's just, you can tell that's got like a sci-fi look to it, but it's also got kind of the fantasy medieval times look to it. It's so good. I love that. The yellows, the brushstrokes. Some people who are not Darrell K. Sweet fans are like, this guy is crazy. And then he did some of this series. Is not only my favorite fantasy series, but it has some of the best cover art ever, in my opinion. And you have The Rune Lords. This is David Farland's book, but Darrell K. Sweet did the artwork for it. The Rune Lords is a fantastic cover. And then we also have Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is also a fantastic cover. Here, we also have a Wizardborn, which is one of my favorite covers ever. Just a single cover. Like if I just made my top 10 book covers. Like I think I did do that once. This is certainly on the list. And he also did Lair of Bones, which is also really good. It's not my favorite of his. It's probably my least favorite Daryl K. Sweet cover art because it's a little bit more minimalist, but I still think it's a great cover. And then he did this one. It's weird. Go with it. The World Binder cover with the guys with the wings and the claws and the kind of demon type thing. Like, this looks bizarre, but that's because it is bizarre in the book. But it's a fantastic cover. I mean, my copy, when I got it, it was all creaked and bent, and this was not my fault. So if I can find like a pure hardcover that's like, undefiled, I would love it. And then talking about the last series of books, and I'm not going to show all of them because it'd be like 13 or 14 books long, and I don't want to keep you too long. But he also did The Wheel of Time, and that's what he's most known for. And I was watching a Brandon Sanderson video recently where he was talking about how they said, we love Daryl's cover art, but it was old and we had to redo it. And I'm like, no, the redoing it was the problem. Yes, you got some famous cover artists to do it, but that was the problem, was getting rid of Daryl K. Sweet. Daryl K. Sweet defined the art style for the Wheel of Time. When you see a lot of the people who did fan art for it, which I'm not a pro fan art person, but when you say they did fan art, the fan art that they did is usually based off of his stuff I'm talking back in the day, and it's just gorgeous. And again, my covers, I did not treat this one well. The Eye of the World, it looks weird because why is Moraine so much shorter than Lan here? But I think it looks really good. It stands out. My cousin recommended I read Wheel of Time, and I was already kind of interested, but I became super interested when I saw this cover in the bookstore. I'm so thankful I bought my copies before they changed it. I bought my final copy of The Wheel of Time right as they announced that they were changing the new cover art style. I was so thankful I got them in. Also, he did The Shadow Rising, which I really like. This one looks like a fantasy blended with like a Western kind of look, which I really like that. And then he did Winter's Heart, which I see so many people crap on this cover, and I'm like, the way he gets the blue snow, it's a blue-white colored snow. Like, it's not blue and it's not white, it's like a blue-white combination, and of course it's a wraparound cover. And again, they put all the words on the back, but if they didn't, you'd see all the people and the horses and the caravan and the carts, and it's gorgeous. But on the front, and you're like, the dimensions of the people just look really weird. It does, but it oozes his style, and I like that. And it just feels very classic fantasy to me. And then we have The Gathering Storm, which I really like. I really like that cover art. And then he did The Knife of Dreams, which again has some weirdness to it, but that yellow just resonates with me. So that is my favorite cover artist. I could probably spend so much more time talking about Daryl K. Sweet. I love his artwork. But those are my top 5 favorite cover artists and my favorite cover arts by those cover artists. If you have a list, let me know your list of your favorite cover artists and what your favorite artwork by them. I may not have heard of the book, so I might need to go out and look at that book cover. Let me know, do you like that kind of painting style that I like, or are you more of a minimalist? Let me know all those thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.